Welcome to the Daily Bite with your host, Pastor Steve Andrews. Today we read together from Exodus chapter 30. You shall make an altar on which to burn incense. You shall make it of acacia wood. A cubit shall be its length, and a cubit its breadth. It shall be square, and 2 cubits shall be its height. Its horns shall be of one piece with it. You shall overlay it with pure gold, its top and around its sides and its horns. And you shall make a molding of gold around it. And you shall make 2 golden rings for it. Under its molding, on 2 opposite sides of it, you shall make them, and they shall be holders for poles with which to carry it. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. And you shall put it in front of the veil that is above the ark of the testimony, in front of the mercy seat that is above the testimony, where I will meet with you. And Aaron shall burn fragrant incense on it. Every morning when he dresses the lamps, he shall burn it. And when Aaron sets up the lamps at twilight, he shall burn it, a regular incense offering before Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall not offer unauthorized incense on it, or a burnt offering, or a grain offering, and you shall not pour a drink offering on it. Aaron shall make atonement on its horns once a year. With the blood of the sin offering of atonement he shall make atonement for it, once in the year throughout your generations. It is most holy to Yahweh. Yahweh said to Moses, when you take the census of the people of Israel, then each shall give a ransom for his life to Yahweh when you number them, that there be no plague among them when you number them. Each one who is numbered in the census shall give this, half a shekel according to the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs. Half a shekel is an offering to Yahweh. Everyone who is numbered in the census from 20 years old and upward shall give Yahweh's offering. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half shekel, when you give Yahweh's offering to make atonement for your lives. You shall take the atonement money from the people of Israel, and shall give it to the service of the tent of meeting, that it may bring the people of Israel to remembrance before Yahweh, so as to make atonement for your lives. Yahweh said to Moses, you shall also make a basin of bronze, with its stand of bronze for washing. You shall put it between the tent of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in it, with which Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet. When they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister, to burn a food offering to Yahweh, they shall wash with water, so that they may not die. They shall wash their hands and their feet, so that they may not die. It shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his offspring throughout their generations. Yahweh said to Moses, take the finest spices of liquid myrrh, 500 shekels, and of sweet-smelling cinnamon, half as much, that is 250, and 250 of aromatic cane, and 500 of cassia, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, and a hin of olive oil. And you shall make of these a sacred anointing oil, blended as by the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. With it you shall anoint the tent of meeting and the ark of the testimony, and the table with all its utensils, and the lampstand and its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin and its stand. You shall consecrate them, that they may be most holy. Whoever touches them will become holy. You shall anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may serve me as priests. And you shall say to the people of Israel, this shall be my holy anointing oil throughout all your generations. It shall not be poured on the body of an ordinary person, and you shall make no other like it in composition. It is holy, and it shall be holy to you. Whoever compounds any like it, or whoever puts any of it on an outsider, shall be cut off from his people. Yahweh said to Moses, take sweet spices, stacte, and onycha, and galbanum, sweet spices with pure frankincense, of each shall there be an equal part. And make an incense blended as by the perfumer, seasoned with salt, pure and holy. You shall beat some of it very small, and put part of it before the testimony in the tent of meeting, where I shall meet with you. It shall be most holy for you. And the incense that you shall make according to its composition, you shall not make for yourselves. It shall be holy. It shall be for you holy to Yahweh. Whoever makes any like it to use as perfume shall be cut off from his people. This is the word of the Lord. Really, the primary thing that you're going to end up talking to your children about, I would think, in this chapter is this holy idea, this idea of God's holiness. Why does God take this holiness stuff so seriously? That's a fantastic family conversation to have, as you see all these different things are being made holy. The parts of the tabernacle are to be holy. The the oil that anoints things, which itself is holy, but also when it's poured on something else, it makes that thing holy. The incense is holy, and you can't just use these things on anything or anyone, right? The oil cannot be poured on an ordinary person, verse 32. And if you do, if you make one of these, either the oil or the incense, if you make something even similar to it for regular use in your daily life in the community, you are cut off from God's people. That means you're removed. You're no longer part of Israel. You're no longer part of the covenant of God. You're out. You're a pagan outsider at that point. You have completely rejected God. And this is strong stuff. So what is going on here? Why does God take this so seriously? And this is the opportunity with your family to have the conversation about God's holiness. It's part of his character. It's who he is. God is holy. He is perfect in every possible way. And part of his holiness is then it's not just that he can't interact with sin, but part of being holy is that he must judge sin. It's not like holiness and sinfulness are these two things that are on equal ground. Holiness, well, I mean, we've heard it elsewhere in the book already that God is a consuming fire. Holiness in a sense is like that as well. The holiness of God consumes sin. It must judge these things. If it doesn't, it's no longer holy. It is now tarnished. And so God's very being is being poured out into this tabernacle, that everything in this place is going to be holy because God himself will be there. This is going to be his house. This is going to be his tent. It's going to be his throne to be in the midst of his people. He's going to use this place to speak to them. And so it must be holy. As a culture today, 21st century America, and that's certainly spilled over into the church, there's not a lot of idea of holiness around us. But it would be good for us to study and to learn and to get some of that back because it's part of who our God is. And so that should, and it's a, by its very self, the idea that that is who God is should make us at least interested in the idea of holiness because we are interested in our God. We are interested in who he is and what he does for us. So holiness is the biggest part of your conversation here, probably. The first thing in the chapter is that incense altar. It seems a little off. I mean, we had the rest of the interior furniture a couple of chapters ago, so why wait until now? I don't have an answer for you for that, but this is that final piece inside the tent that is put together. So this is 18 inches well, long and deep, and it's 36 inches tall. So again, a cubit at 18 inches. It's one piece. So the horns and the altar itself, one piece together, out of acacia wood, and they're covered in gold. So very similar building style to the rest of the furniture. The only difference here is instead of having 4 rings, it only has 2. This is a smaller piece of furniture. It's not going to be as heavy to carry. So um, you can actually then visualize that, right, as it's being carried. When you've got 4 rings, you've got stability, and the 2 poles slid through. You've got the 4 points of contact. So as they're carrying the ark, for example, it's not moving, not much at least. But when you only have 2 points of contact, that might be something you could try together as a family. You know, tape something together, make something like this, and stick a couple of poles through. I mean, get creative with that and see the difference when you only have the 2 points of contact. This is going to be moving. It's going to be swaying as you walk it. And so that might have a connection. I don't know for sure, but so the higher liturgical congregations, that have incense in their worship. A lot of Roman Catholic churches, even some among the Lutheran Church, do this. Certainly the Eastern Orthodox as well. They have their incense and they call it a censer, and they're swinging it. And I'm wondering if there might be a connection there liturgically for them to this. I'd have to ask, but that's a good thing to maybe dig into a little bit deeper. Anyway, as you look at this, Aaron is supposed to use, verse 6. It's going to be set right in front of the veil. So the veil, that curtain that separates the most holy place from the holy place, the only thing in the most holy place is the ark, the throne of God. Outside, you already have on the south side the lampstand, on the north side the table of presence, the bread of the presence. And now on this west side, up against the veil, you're going to have the incense offerings done on this little altar. And Aaron and future generations of priests are supposed to do this every morning and every evening at twilight. There's to offer incense twice a day on this altar. Nothing else. This is its purpose. That's verse 9. So that holiness idea again. It's also going to be used for atonement once a year, blood being poured on it and on its horns. This is going to happen on the Day of Atonement, when the priest actually goes past this physically through the veil into the most holy place and puts that blood also then in the most holy place. But that's part of the same day. The next paragraph is about the census, counting of the people, males 20 years and older, and they have to buy themselves back. Almost a teaching point here for them to realize that God has bought them back. Here they're buying themselves back, and they're doing it at $300 roughly, perhaps. We're not told a half shekel of what. A half shekel comes out to about a fifth of an ounce. So if this is gold, it would be about $300 today. If it's silver, significantly less. I mean, like $10. I don't know. I'd have to look that up too. But you kind of get the picture. This isn't an astounding amount by any stretch of the imagination. Now, this money, though, is going to care for the tabernacle moving forward. This is an offering, really, to care for the equipment of the tabernacle. And it's a one and done. And you don't see this kind of stuff often. The next census that I can recall is done by King David, and it results in a plague. This one's done so that there isn't a plague. So just a different perspective here from later in the Old Testament. Now, question perhaps for your children: can you buy your way into God's family? Can you buy your way into the church? The answer to both of those questions is no. And if your church is telling you differently, that you can somehow buy your way in, run. I mean, run fast, flee. That is not a place that will be a faithful place for you and your family to be. So you cannot buy your way in. You cannot save yourself. That is something God does for you. He has done for you in and through his son, Jesus. The next paragraph is about the bronze basin. So another piece of furniture outside of the tabernacle in the courtyard, where you've already got the burnt offering altar out there. It's also made of bronze. This basin is made out of bronze. What goes in a basin? Well, verse 18 tells us water. What does this remind you of? A bowl of water in the tabernacle. Just like we have the table of the presence inside the tent that has bread and wine on it. Now here, outside, we have a bowl of water. These are the elements that Jesus commands us to use as the church when we have the sacraments together. Water for baptism, bread and wine for the Lord's Supper. Foreshadowed already back here in the Old Testament in the tabernacle's design. And this is 1450 years, a little more than that, before the institution of baptism, the Lord's Supper, is given to the church. No size is actually prescribed in the text, which is interesting. It's just simply not given to us. But this is to be used by the priests to clean themselves as they go about their work in the Lord's house. And then you get the oil and the incense. We talked about those already in terms of their holiness, that they're going to be used the oil will be used to consecrate everything that's being used for the Lord's house, including the priests themselves. But the thing you might pick up on these is that the oil, one of the ingredients is myrrh, and one of the ingredients in the incense is frankincense, and then the acacia wood in the altar at the beginning of the chapter, it was coated in gold. So see if your children make that connection. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, all mentioned here in this chapter. And what does that point us to? It points us to Jesus and to the gifts that the Magi bring to the baby Jesus at the time of Christmas. It's a good reminder for us to think about how the Old Testament points us to Christ.